Yo.
All right, y'all. What's going on? Definitely excited today. This is episode 3 of the Martymar show. Have some very special guests, some people that I've known for a very long time. It's going to be a very good episode. And talking about today, well, actually, before I get started, I wanted to thank all my supporters and followers for following the show. The viewers have increased drastically over the first couple of episodes. So I definitely want to just thank everybody for supporting the show, supporting the movement. Our shows, or my show, excuse me, is all about being different and just looking at things from a different perspective. So again, I want to thank everyone for supporting and following the show. Today's topic is a very important topic. And today we're actually going to be talking about mental health, right? We know with the pandemic going on and things going on in education, racial injustice and all these things going on, our mental health is very important. And a lot of people have experienced trauma in their childhood, of course, their adult life, just all throughout their lives, they are experiencing these traumatic things and are not dealing with it. So I thought I'd bring some very special guests on the show to really talk about some of these things. So let's clap it up for my special guests. We're first going to start out with introducing one of my good friends, Kiana. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Kiana Bean. I am a licensed professional counselor in Washington, D.C., an LPC, and I'm so excited to participate in this podcast, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. And next, we're going to introduce my frat brother, longtime friend. Can you introduce yourself there, Brother Charles?
Absolutely. What's going on, everybody? My name is Charles Robinson Snead, and I am a licensed professional counselor of mental health in Delaware, LPCMH. And I've been knowing good brother Lamar for over 10 years now. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here for sure.
Don't be telling my age on the show. No, all jokes aside, these are two good people. I try to really get guests who I know and I know are really good at what they do. So let's kind of get into the show. Let's talk to the people about the mental health. So in this episode, I really wanted to get a male and a female therapist or counselor to really give insight from a male and female perspective, but definitely for minorities, right? Because we are very timid when it comes to talking about mental health. So one of the first questions, and we'll start with Kiana, can you what do I want to ask first? There's so many questions to really talk about. Actually, Kiana, can you give us a little bit more about your background? Like, what made you want to get into counseling?
Sure. I decided mental health or therapy was something that I really wanted to pursue when I was 16. I was in high school. And it really more so kind of surrounded just the different things that I saw with friends. They liked that I was pretty genuine in my responses, very empathetic, pretty chill and, non-judgmental. So I, really decided that this was something I really wanted to pursue. I love how the mind works. I love how two different people can have two very different experiences with a particular event, the same event, but two different views. It's really, really amazing how our brain processes things. I love working with children and teens. I actually have a background in working with children and teens. I also work with adults. I've worked with so many different populations, severely mentally ill, those who have a addiction to different substances, children with different concerns. So I love what I do.
Thank you for that. And Charles, can you also give us a little bit about your background as well? Like what's your
For sure.
like?
So I kind of stumbled into counseling. It kind of happened a little bit unorthodox for myself. I just know that, when I was younger, I was never that kid who really knew what I wanted to do. Like everybody was firefighter, cop, teacher, doctor, lawyer, whatever. I just never really knew. I can recall though that one thing I've always enjoyed from childhood is just helping people. I just knew that I was a helper. I was good at serving. I was good at just helping people for whatever they needed help with. And I was kind of best, honestly, when I was younger at making people laugh. Like, I was good at just kind of like doing stuff, whether it was dancing or, you know, cracking jokes with my siblings, just making people laugh and just helping in that way. And I think it was kind of coupled with just the nature of who I am as a thinker. I always was super inquisitive about everything, and I always like overly analyzed everything. I was a problem solver, you know, by nature as well as a kid. And so I think all of those things together, as I got older and, you know, life started to become more real for me as far as having to, you know, find something that I want to do with my life and career and professionally. At first I was, got into mentorship when I started going to the Boys and Girls Club in my local neighborhood. And I think from there it just kind of developed. I went to college because I found out that psychology was about, you know, how the mind works. And I was really inspired by one of my high school guidance counselors, actually, who really, you know, helped me figure out what that looked like for me. And so, of course, in college, I learned about, you know, psychology as far as my program was concerned. And then from there, learning more about counseling. And then when I understood what counseling was, because I never saw a counselor as a kid, when I understood what counseling was, I realized that it was what I needed as a kid. And so I kind of just wanted to become that for somebody else. So that's kind of how I got, you know, kind of navigating through into it, you know, which then, you know, caused me to further pursue counseling at the master's level and then pretty much going from there.
Wow. And both of you guys' story is, you know, is very awesome. I first want to thank you for all that you do. Myself being a licensed social worker, we don't get enough credit for what we do and how much time we spend with people,
Yes.
their families, the chaos that we deal with, you know, working with the various clients. So again, I just want to thank you guys and stay encouraged in the professions that you guys have and in positions that y'all have, because we really, I know a lot of jobs say, you know, we can make a difference, but really a counselor, what's being done, it's a lot of work. So kudos to you guys. And then talking about that, especially because regardless of social work, counseling, our main goal is to serve people, right? So in you guys' opinion, what makes a good counselor?
That's a really good question. You want to? Well, I'll go. So I think there are a lot of different things that make a good counselor. You know, the first thing is to have just great self-awareness about what you are willing to do when you're working with clients. So you can't say, and they teach us this in school, you know, at some point there's going to be a particular type of client or issue that you may not feel comfortable, you know, facing or working with. And so knowing what your limits are, because we also have our own traumas and backgrounds and things of that sort. And mind you, we have to be in a place where we kind of push those things aside to help our clients or our consumers. But just being aware of who you're willing to work with, what issues you are, you know, willing to kind of tackle on with, you know, clients. Some people are not willing to work with sex offenders. Or child abusers. Some people, that's specifically what they love to do or who they love to work with. Just having great awareness of, you know, what you want to do or who you want to work with. And also just making sure that you're empathetic. You're able to really put yourself in that person's shoes. Sometimes, you know, some people say, well, I can't really do that. It's hard. But when you listen to reasons as to why people are so sad or have this anxiety, and you listen to the stories, you can really understand like why they're going through what they're going through. So just having that empathy, great listening skills, being non-judgmental, and, you know, knowing when it's time to ask for help, when it's time to seek guidance, but also honestly knowing if what you are doing for this client is not really helping them, because we want to do more good for them than harm.
Yeah.
Charles, what do you think?
I definitely have to, you know, ditto what she just said. I have to absolutely agree. I think that being in the field that we're in, like we've already said, you know, we're servants and helpers by nature. And I think that with that can come like the notion to want to help everybody and, you know, push ourselves to that place of wanting to help everybody when it's just not possible. I think that one of the best things that a counselor or somebody that I believe, you know, has the nature of a good counselor has to have is just knowing that they are also a human being And you know, if you have a soft spot for a certain area, it's probably best that you don't work with that particular population, because the last thing that you want is your stuff to bleed over into your therapeutic process, and that become an issue for your client as well. So there's a lot of different factors that I think make a good counselor, you know, make up a good counselor. I think also as counselors, we have to be chameleons. Sometimes we have to, you know when it is the time to be direct and the time to be more of a nurturer. We have to know when it's time to, face something head on and be very, on point with it. But then there's also times where we may have to kind of do what we call beating around the bush to get to the, get through the story and get through the problems and working through things, and not be so solution focused that we don't consider the feelings or the nature of whatever it is that our clients are experiencing. So there's a lot of, I think, just different factors that come into play to making up a good counselor. But absolutely, I think that the number one thing, like Keanu already said, is empathy. We have to have that ability to really connect with somebody on that level of understanding, and that understanding not being pretentious, because clients pick up on that too. But having a legitimate and sure level of empathy and understanding is extremely important for any good counselor to have.
Wow, and I think you guys pointed out a lot of good points, especially looking at it from perspective as well. I know when I became a social worker, it was kind of like that mindset, like, yeah, I gotta fix them, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're so caught up in that and just making sure that you're trying to help them, that you're not helping them the right way. And that's a big lesson that I learned with dealing with all the different people, is just that you cannot force what you think is best for them, right? As you grow as a clinician, therapist, counselor, whatever, because like I say, in my opinion, it's all the same. We have our differences, but it's all the same concept of wanting to help people.
For sure.
And we really have to allow them to see the error in whatever is going on so they can grow from it, and not necessarily us just kind of, if I had to put it in the best words, kind of like just doing it for them, right? We're helping them grow in those areas. Kiana, I see you had something you wanted to add. Go ahead.
No, I don't even know, like what you said was like to the T. The only thing I wanted to add was that, you don't want to work harder than your client should. Like, you don't want to do that, because then you're doing it to yourself, and it doesn't feel good when we see, we put in all this work and this hard energy to get someone to get to a place that we know they can get to. And then sometimes people, they're not ready. They're not ready to be there. And at the end of the day, when you stop and you realize, I'm doing more work than this, So you make a very good point. Like, just gotta let it happen and let them kind of be on that path to get to where they need to get to. And it may take a while, but if it ain't, if it's not working, then maybe, do something different, or maybe say, I wonder if this is something you need right now, or if we can explore other options to get you the help that you need.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it's, spending too much time on the topic or not, but I actually want to go back and touch on a point Kiana had made as well. When you talked about like that, just that self-awareness piece, I do believe, it's my personal belief, I believe that every counselor has to I won't say has to. I'll say I think it's important for every counselor to, at some point in time or another, sit on the other end. I think it's important that at some point in time or another, that the counselor learns how to be a patient by going seeking their own individual and personal counseling, whether it's mentorship, whether you go to actual counselor, or whatever the case may be. I definitely think that piece is important for sure. Absolutely.
And I definitely agree with that. There's many a times where I've come home, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm tired of that. And they did this today and they did that. You have to get it out, right? Because you're helping so many people with various problems and spending so much time with those problems that they start to become your problem, especially when it's not working for them.
Yeah.
Right? And they're literally relying on you to help them be successful, and to see it not transpiring in the way you wanted to, it starts to wear on you, especially for those who really have a servant's heart, who really want to see people grow. It bothers you. You know what I mean? For anybody that doesn't have that compassion or that in their heart, right? They I'm pretty sure you guys have seen your profession. People don't care. They like up, next one up, or
Yeah.
as long as I get my billable hours, I'm good. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
really worried about that.
Yeah.
So it's important to really have that, you know, that right mindset. You know, we know this profession, it's not always the most wealthiest unless you got, you know, the top tier clients. But, you know, the pay is seeing people's lives change and them coming back saying, hey, I'll remember you, or, you know, what you really did for me, you changed my whole life around. Like that's a powerful thing for anybody to say, regardless of what profession, whatever you did for me changed my life. And I think that's awesome. So it kind of segues into the next question, you know, and you guys being the professionals, I really like a lot of, again, I like a lot of things that you guys really said, but how can people benefit from counseling? We'll start with Kiana. How do you think people can actually benefit, in your opinion?
Benefit in a lot of different ways. One, I think people think I don't need counseling if there's nothing really wrong or wrong with me. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. I think there's, you know, if there are things going on in your life that you're not happy with, that's a barrier to you meeting your goals, you know, concerned about relationships kind of ending up in the very same way the last one and the last one did, then I definitely think there's nothing wrong with sitting down, talking to somebody and processing some things that happen in your life. But I do want to say that it helps people with a vast majority of things, whether it's trauma related, it's because of anxiety, it's because of depression, because of marriage issues, because of anger, anything. It can help really with anything.
Oh, okay. Charles, what do you think?
I definitely agree. I think that, you know, I believe that counseling brings clarity. I really do. I think that one of the strengths of and benefits of seeking any type of counsel, you know, is that it provides some type of clarity in your life. You know, it's not always about the diagnosis. Sometimes it is that you struggle with problem solving skills, and sometimes it is that you have poor boundaries in your relationships. You need somebody to talk to you about how to, you know, kind of like reverse what that looks like and develop some healthy boundaries for yourself and for others. Sometimes you need to explore what your values are so that way you can have a healthier set of relationships in your life. Sometimes, you know, it's not always about the diagnosis. And I think that this is one thing that I was recently talking to some college students about, who kind of were stuck on the stigmas of of mental health and things of that sort. I talked to them and I said, you know, I think the misconception is that everything is diagnosable, and that's not true. I think that you don't have to be you don't have to go to a counselor and be diagnosed with something. Because if we look into like the specifics of the tool that we use as far as the DSM-5 is concerned, that to even diagnose somebody, most people wouldn't be diagnosable. Some people have symptomology, pretty much meaning that they experience symptoms of something. And so most people can experience symptoms of anxiety or symptoms of depression, but not necessarily meet the qualifications to be diagnosed. And so I always try to explain to people, you know, you can experience this this overwhelming nature of loneliness or wanting to isolate yourself and sometimes questioning, you know, your existence or whatever the case may be. And those could be symptoms of depression that you're experiencing for whatever reason. Maybe there was a recent change in your life or something that happened, or maybe you're grieving somebody and these are the immediate responses that you're feeling emotionally. It's okay to go seek counseling for that. And that doesn't mean that you have to go there and get this diagnosis and take these pills and, you know, which is a different conversation. But I think sometimes that can be the fear of going to counseling, is like, oh, they're going to label me as depressed, or they're going to label me as someone who has anxiety or bipolar or schizophrenic. And that's not always the case.
Huge fear. I totally agree. They get some clients or some people, get so kind of caught up in the label, the particular diagnosis. And I'm going to be honest, I don't always say or mention, well, the diagnosis, you know, whatever. I don't do that. We look at what's going on today. Tell me how you're feeling today. You know, last week you were doing great. This week seems really stressful. Let's talk about that. And we literally just focus on the problems and kind of allow them to really look at feelings, labeling feelings, you know, looking at, like Charles even said, relationships. What were some boundary issues that, you know, may have popped up that, you know, maybe were a little weak than a little weaker than what they were last week or something. Anything. And I honestly try not to bring that up in particular because it can be a touchy subject. I had one person in particular who had, after meeting with one of the nurse practitioners, was, told her for diagnosis, and then she had told her family, and unfortunately they made fun of her. And I was,
Wow.
yeah. And, I said, well, don't, let's not worry about that. Well, let's talk about your feelings regarding that. But in terms of the things that you and I do, we don't have to bring that up. I'm more so concerned about, what are some issues that are going on and how can we get you to where you need to get to? Of course, surrounding the symptoms of that particular diagnosis, but not necessarily kind of bringing it up because people have feelings. It's a huge stigma.
And and hearing you guys really talk about it, there are more benefits than what people really think about, right? I think about like the old school movies, and they would have like the counselor in the office on the top floor, got one plan in there, that little lazy boy couch where you laying down and like, tell me how you feel, tell me how to, and all that stuff. And even now, like especially with the DSM-5, and me and Miss Kiana were kind of talking about this before the show a little bit about like getting like a clinical license. And I told her I'm not really into the whole diagnosing thing because I feel like obviously people suffer from certain things, but I just don't like the fact that when they receive this label, for one, you're responsible for diagnosing them with that. This could really change their life, right? And two, when people have these certain labels, sometimes they are labeled this for life. Like it's almost like a death sentence, if you will. Like, this is what you are. You have anxiety. So, they paint this picture like you'll have it for the rest of your life, or depression. It doesn't seem like, hey, this is a temporary thing. You know what I mean? This is something you can overcome. It's painted almost as if, it's a lifelong thing. So I really, just want people to see that and have you guys on here. It's more to it than that, right? It's kind of like it's balanced. When we come to you or anybody is coming to anybody, it's an exchange. You're showing me ways that I can grow, and I'm pretty sure you guys have experienced this. Sometimes we talk with your clients, they share something with you that make you realize, hey, I can change in this area too, or oh, you know what, that's a good point. It's kind of like we're vibing off each other, if I had to put it in the simplest of terms. But you guys kind of already led into my next question, but I want to see if y'all can give me just a little bit more in depth about. So can y'all tell me, like, why are people so afraid of therapy, especially minorities? Because as soon as you bring up counselor, social work, you think like, hey, somebody coming to my house, they about to be all in my business. So,
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about why are people afraid of therapy so much?
It's a really good question. So it could be for, I don't want to say a variety of reasons, but I think it's like a few. One, if I talk to somebody about my problems or what's going on in my life, then that means that I'm crazy or there's something wrong with me. And to a point you had made earlier, with the diagnosis and people thinking that that's something you'll have for the rest of your life. I tell people, let's get it to a point where you're able to manage the symptoms related to X, Y, and Z, or just manage the symptoms. And then that's it, but not kind of constantly reminding people. That's just like some people, they don't want to take medicine because it validates that there's something wrong with them. Mind you, I don't prescribe medicine, and I tell people I don't prescribe medicine. By law, I cannot make you take your medicine. But people are afraid that they'll be labeled with something. Some people are afraid to confront things that have happened in their past. And sometimes there are people who they're not ready for therapy. And you can see it in their actions, you can see it in their engagement, attendance, and a lot of different things. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. And I think it takes a very strong person to open up and say, I have this going on. And right now, all of my clients, except for now one, are African American. And I love the fact that I'm helping people who look like me. And I come from the same areas as some of these people. I'm here to help them really normalize that it's okay to experience some discomfort. Well, it's not okay, but you're not the only one. You're not the only one going through this. And, let's get you to a place where you're calm, you're happy, you are flourishing in your relationships, in your work life, you're meeting your goals, you're going back to school, you're doing these things that make you happy because something that happened in your past made you feel ugly, stupid, incompetent, all these things that you thought you could not do or be. So that is why I think people are afraid. And I really try to get people to understand that it can be a scary process, but I'm here to help you with that. You're not going to do this alone.
Wow. Well, what about you, Charles?
I think that there's a couple reasons why, people are afraid of therapy, afraid of counseling. I think that the connotation put behind it over the course of time has really tainted what we do. And I started to look at it from a couple of different ways. One way I would say is looking at yourself sometimes in the mirror and saying, hey, listen, it is absolutely okay to not be okay today.
Yes.
Because, and the reason why is because I'm not a robot wired by machinery that can dictate X, Y, and Z for today. I'm a human being, okay, who has limitations, who has feelings, right? Who has the right to feel, to right to think, respond, react, whatever the case may be. So it is okay. It is okay to not always feel 100%. Sometimes you're going to be at 92. Sometimes you're going to be at 43%. But it's okay. And then you'll have your days where you're at 100. But that's just a part of the human experience. So I think that's one reason why, people fear therapy, is because it's kind of like this lie that we have bought into that we have to be perfect. And that's just not true. And I think that counseling can sometimes expose those imperfections for us to work through it. And like Kiana said, not everybody's really ready all the time to experience what that might look like or what that might feel like, what that process really might be, because it does sometimes cause some in-depth work. I think another thing that causes people to be afraid of therapy is another misconception, another stigma concerning mental health. I think that to me, it's really sad that we are taught when we're younger to take care of our physical health for the most part. We go get a yearly physical exam from our primary care physician. We'll go to the dentist, every 6 months for our cleanup, or to get a tooth pulled, or to get a cap or a root canal, whatever the case may be. We'll go to the eye doctor to get our prescription once every 2 years. And so we take care of a lot of these different physical experiences as far as physical health is concerned, but nobody goes to see a counselor. Like, why aren't children, seeing counselors? So we tend to see, physical health as like something normal to go take care of, but then we see mental health as something that's less than. We hide it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't address it. And I always tell people, physical health and your mental health are literally synonymous. They're one and the same. You have to take care of both. If you do not take care of your mental health, I don't care how fit you are on the outside, your physical health is not in alignment. And so when we talk about just, the issues that people have and why they're afraid to go to counseling, I think it's just that they have this negative view of what therapy is. And I think that even when it comes into medications, why is it okay, right? Or why is it more acceptable for us to go see a doctor and be diagnosed with cancer and diabetes and take medication for that? But then we don't want to, address or even acknowledge or consider the medications that they have out there for depression or anxiety or ADHD or whatever the case may be. I think that we have to start seeing, mental health on a level playing field with other forms of health that we normally give attention to. And I think that in and of itself can decrease some of those stigmas, those misconceptions, and those fears that come with counseling.
I definitely agree with both of you guys. And thinking about it too, I don't know if y'all remember the cartoons, and like I remember explicitly Bugs Bunny. I remember he had the straps on his arm,
yeah,
stuff like that. And it's like they constantly, of course we know TV has a big influence, famous people, of course, all that good stuff. But society has made it so that if you are seeing anybody for any reason, it's pretty much almost saying, mind you, we always say everybody has issues and problems, but yet when I'm trying to get help for that, I'm wrong for seeking out somebody to figure out how to stop these problems from happening. It's like society has trained us to think that we should just remain in our problems, in our foolishness, in our, drunkenness, whatever it is, like that's just a messed up mindset to really have. So I think, everything has come afoot, especially with everything that's going on in society right now. I think people are really seeing like, I need to deal with this. I need to deal with, whatever mama, daddy, uncle, auntie, whatever they did to me in the past, whatever I've done, intentionally to myself, I really need to deal with that, because how can I, have a successful relationship, not only work, your business, but, for those who are aspiring to one day get married or, entertain somebody in the dating scene, it's like, how can I even deal with you when I haven't even dealt with myself?
For sure.
So I think that a lot of those things definitely impact people being afraid, and especially like some of the clients that I've worked with in my own life coaching business, I've seen like them kind of discuss some of the things that were giving them limitations, and it's just like it was hard to break that barrier at first. But I think one of the biggest things too is, as you guys already mentioned, is really showing empathy. Them seeing that, okay, I'm not just going to tell you just do this, do that, and it's all going to work out. Like, nah, we're going to talk this thing out, because if I have that real receptive ear and I'm taking that time to not always run my mouth, because that's the biggest thing I learned. Instead of me just always talking over the clients, let them talk. You know what I mean? You'll have your time. Obviously, that's what they're there for, to hear what you got to say, but they need you to hear them first so you can, further go in depth. But I wanted to ask you guys, and I think this is a great question. Is it expensive for counseling? Because a lot of people, and I'm going to be real, minorities on this show, we're real. So minorities, we know we cheap about everything. We'll buy Jordans easily for $300-$500, but when it comes to putting gas in people's car or counseling, we like, I don't got money for that. I ain't got no money. I ain't.
Right.
But you got money for everything else. So is it expensive for counseling?
I think. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Charles. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say it's not expensive for counseling. I think that can be an excuse that we can use to not go for it, but it's really not. It's no more expensive than you going to see your primary care physician and paying a copay. It really isn't. Your insurance companies typically pay a portion. If you have insurance, you typically have your insurance company typically pays a portion of the fee or the whole fee, depending on what insurance you have. A lot of insurances pay the whole fee, and if not, typically it's a partial fee with a very minimal copay. I've seen like $20 or $30 copays. I haven't seen anything drastically, that would discourage somebody from seeking counseling. So it's really not expensive. We also have community organizations who provide, licensed and experienced clinicians for free. These services are out there. So if you really want counseling, you can get it. Even if you have when you're going to see a counselor, they normally explain or share what insurance companies they do or do not accept within their practice, or they will explain to you if they have a strictly, cash fee, where they don't accept insurances. But they normally explain that, and they have policies for that, or they can create a payment plan, or whatever the case may be. There's options and ways for you to make this happen and work for yourself. And just like you said, Lamar, like we can go spend, $300 on some foam pops or $250 on some Jordans easily, out of a paycheck easily. Sometimes before we even handle our priorities, and but yet for something that's going to benefit us, as far as longevity is concerned, we tend to not invest in that.
What about you?
Exactly. You basically hit everything on the nail. The only thing I do want to add is that if in fact you have insurance that does not pay for therapy or, pay a good portion for therapy, there are, clinicians who will offer what is considered a sliding scale. So instead of you paying the full amount, they may give you a reduced amount, or they'll say, instead of having a full hour, I'll charge you this fee, but you may not get a full hour, you'll get 45 minutes or something to that degree. It depends. Everyone has a different policy in terms of what they want their practice to look like with clients and things of that sort. I will say ask questions, read the fine print. Some people will charge you for a late fee. It's just like going to the doctor, just know what those things are. And then when it comes with canceling, if you do it within whatever their policy says, 24 hours or a couple of hours or 48 hours, you won't get charged. But even if you're not going every week, if you can go every other week, something, and then maybe if you think you really need to go every week, do something to kind of build up the money to actually go, even if it's for a short period of time, because you guys make very good points. It's another form of health. It's just not our body, it's our mind. And essentially our mind kind of leads us to act or kind of not act in certain situations. So we have to be in a place where we can fuel this just like we fuel our bodies.
Sure.
Therapy is another form of fueling our mind and even our heart degree, depending on what you're dealing with. And so it can be free based on your insurance. It can be cheaper than the normal rate. You may have to do a little exploration with who's in your area, who provides those services, and, you know, make the calls, do some research, do what you need to do. It's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think, so let me start by saying this for everybody that's going to watch this episode is no excuse at this point. Y'all have the information.
Yeah.
They pretty much told you, you can almost pretty much you can get counseling for free. And if you don't have insurance, like you say, you get it for free, but even through your insurance, which you're paying for anyway, because I'm going to be real, I got insurance and I don't even use it for most of the time, the stuff that I should be using for. I mean, obviously I go to the dentist and things of that nature, but you know, that's obviously, you know, once or twice out of the year. Besides that, it's just, you're just paying for insurance that's just sitting there for it just in case. So for those of you who have it, you know, if you're looking to seek out counseling or things of that nature, use it. I mean, you're paying that money out your check. So why not?
One more thing, because of COVID, and there's a lot of grief surrounding people that may be passing. Some insurance companies or some organizations will work on getting people like a few sessions for free because of what's going on with the stresses of the pandemic, or if there's like grief, you know, they may allow maybe 3 to 5 sessions for free, but then you have to pay for the rest, or you may have to pay a copay with that, something to that extent. But you know, make sure you know, if you're employed, talk to your employer, see what things are offered, because right now, honestly, is like the best time to get connected to a mental health professional. It really, really is. It's needed, and it's just a really good time now because you may be able to get a few sessions if you are employed for free because of what's going on.
Wow, and thank you for really sharing that. That's important information for people to know. We know COVID has obviously, you know, impacted everyone. I don't know anybody that's not impacted, maybe for billionaires, but besides that, everyone, the normal person has been impacted by this. So we thank you for sharing that. And I thought of a couple more questions because this has been a very dope conversation. And I know this is can be very touchy, but I'm going to ask, do you think clients should have how do I want to phrase this? Do you think clients should have a preference on what type of counselor they're seeing, meaning male or female? Does it really matter? Like, what do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah.
It can matter. You know, there is truth in that people sometimes, because not all the time, but sometimes people want to feel connection or have someone sitting in front of them who looks like them. Yeah, there's truth. There is some truth to that, you know, because they feel like it's someone who can relate to them, who can understand some struggles, things of that sort. But also in regards to, like, when it comes to the sex of the professional, if a person has a history of violence or sexual assault or something by a particular sex or a particular type of person, it may be best that they not see, you know, someone that kind of looks like the perpetrator or is the same sex as the perpetrator, just because it may, you know, open up a couple of things for them when they're processing stuff. That's not all the time. In a lot of cases, it is recommended. What I often see with women in particular is that they actually ask for a female.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I think that what I've seen, and I have to say it like this, you know, I in all of my years of growing up and in grade school, I never once had a Black male teacher.
I think I had a couple.
Really?
And all of my, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, not one time did I have a Black male teacher. I did not get a Black male teacher or somebody in that role until I got to college at Delaware State University, which is an HBCU with predominantly Black faculty. Right. And so, you know, I think that what I have learned in that experience is that identification can be a huge factor in somebody's process. And I think that a lot of the times, for example, I work with children and adults, but as far as the children are concerned, a lot of them will not connect with or open up to or have conversations with counselors that do not look like them. And so they end up on my couch. And then that's when their process normally starts. Because they'll be tried with other counselors, but it never works for them. I'll also say this was what I learned. I think that it doesn't necessarily always have to do with color too, just like Kiana has said, because I work with, like I said, I have a healthy caseload of children that I work with. And some of them are Caucasian, but they're Caucasian from a particular demographic and community, which meaning, you know, they are Caucasian kids who grew up in predominantly Black communities. And so they also do not connect with clinicians that are even of their same race. They tend to connect or kind of gravitate more to me because they can identify with who's in their community. So a lot of times I think identification is a huge factor. I also have to say this too. I think that it's important for people to understand that it's okay to like kind of feel around for a counselor that works for you. I think sometimes people think like the first one that I researched and I read their bio online, that's the one for me. That's not always the case. It's just like trying on shoes. I explain it like this. It's just like trying on shoes. You go to the store, you try on a shoe, you think it might be the right size because you know you wear a size 12, but then when you get there, the shoe is cut differently and you have to get a size 13. It's okay. Right? It's okay that when you get to this counselor that you thought was the right one and it's just not working, the connection's not there, you just don't feel it. Maybe give them a couple more tries before, you know, to kind of get the familiarity or the rapport built. But after a while, it's okay if you say, you know what, this counselor is, you know, this one's not for me, and to go, you know, find another counselor. I think that is okay. But it's also another thing to understand is, you know, don't hop from counselor to counselor because they may not be saying what you want to hear. Because counselors are not here to qualify you and everything. Sometimes we are meant to challenge you, and that's okay.
Here we go.
And I definitely agree with that hopping around thing, because this day and age, especially with the people that are maybe a little bit younger than us, is no patience in anything from when it comes to jobs, college.
Yeah,
Just everything is like, hey, if it don't work out in the first 5 minutes, I'm out of here. I'm not going to entertain it. So I think both of you guys said with some really good points. And I really want to ask this question. It's a little personal, but not too personal. So I hope you guys don't mind me asking. I think it was something Kiana said, but has being a counselor, has it impacted your dating / relationship? And if so, how? If you guys don't mind sharing. I don't want nobody boo to cut them.
Yes, it does. I'm not even gonna lie, it does. I think sometimes people have this notion that every time I come in contact with someone, or if there's a problem and I'm trying to talk to them or something, that I'm trying to psychoanalyze them and I'm trying to fix stuff. And it's not even about that. You are you, I am me. But let's come to a point where we can agree, disagree, or whatever. I'm not a big confrontational person, and so I just like things to kind of be chill. But I'm not here to look at you, figure out if your little eye twitches or whatever it means. There's something going on. But sometimes I have heard yes. You know, are you psychoanalyzing me? Are you trying to figure something out? Are you know, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to tell you something. I'm trying to help you, or answer the question that you gave me, and you know, that'd be it.
What about you, Charles?
I would say being in this field, I won't say that it has really. It has impacted my dating in a different way. I would say I think it's impacted my dating in that while I think Lamar, you said something earlier, like sometimes, you know, you're helping your client, and while helping your client, you also start helping yourself too. Mm-hmm. I think that, you know, by being in the field, it really pushes me in a place of always exploring how to improve and better myself and develop that personal growth, you know, from different things that I've, you know, learned about myself that I do not think are the healthiest, or that I do not think are, you know, necessary to carry into a relationship. It really causes me to just reflect back to my childhood and my relationship with my parents and siblings and things of that sort, and really focus on working through those things. So I think that the field has impacted my dating, because I feel like I'm always in the space of being self-aware to the point to where there's certain things I just don't want to carry into a relationship. And so I don't feel comfortable, you know, going into a relationship with things that I feel like are not necessary, that I can definitely work through before I bring that to somebody's life. So I think it just really, I think it impacts me in that way. And then my clients are super nosy. My social media platforms are public because I do other stuff with them. You know, as far as even, you know, building on further with mental health platforms. And my clients will come to session like, you know, I saw your Instagram, and I'm like, okay, you know, that's not what we're here to talk about. But there's nothing, the thing is, there's nothing crazy on my Instagram, you know, social media, nothing, I'm very professional. So there's nothing crazy with my social media accounts. But I think that they, you know, because they have access to that, it's like, you know, it's a little weird here in Delaware.
And I thank y'all for really sharing that, because I think a lot of people, you know, need to know again and forget that you guys are people. Obviously, we all want to obtain relationships that are healthy. I would say even for myself, you know, being married and everything, when I first really got into social work, I wasn't married at the time, but just my relationship and my dealing with relationships and my mindset, it was definitely very difficult, especially because like we already talked about, having so many conversations with people about problems, and then you come into a relationship and then you dealing with more problems on top of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I ain't got time for this. But you have to grow up and really mature and obviously separate the two. That was a big challenge for me in the beginning, was really being able to separate my work life from my personal life, because they started to really mesh together in a sense, because like I said, with a relationship, you're really managing both of them. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is with that, but I appreciate you guys for sharing that. So my last question is, shout out to Kiana. She's in DC. She heard the background. So it's no, it's all good. Shout out to DC. You know, and we got Delaware in the building. So shout out to both you guys. But in closing, I guess one last question that I will put out there, and we'll start with Kiana first, is if you could talk briefly from a female standpoint about if nobody else is watching this is still considering counseling from a female standpoint, and especially as a therapist, what else can they benefit from counseling? Or any last words for those people who are still kind of like, I'm not sure?
I would say that it is something that's really going to open your mind to just thinking differently, maybe even living differently. And if you're just in a place where you're not happy, where you know your potential could get you, like, come and talk to someone. It's not like we spew it out to the world. It literally stays in that particular room or space. If you know, if you're doing telehealth, I tell clients all the time, you know, this is your time. You can say whatever you want. If you want to yell, if you want to scream, because often, you know, people, ladies, you know, if you're a caretaker to kids, to parents, to a spouse, whomever, you're going to work, you have all these stressors going on. And I'm going to be honest, specifically for Black females, you know, we want to show that we are strong. They may not openly kind of express their issues, feelings to someone. And so I'm giving people that outlet to kind of get it all out, that space to get it all out. And again, non-judgmental. That is not what I'm here for. That's not what a therapist should be there for. Right. It's to figure out what's going on and allow you to process what are the things that are stressing you. And does it have something to do with boundaries? Does it have something to do with, you know, not figuring out how to find the time to take care of yourself? And people, I do want to stress that even as professionals, the things that we do, clinicians, everybody, whether you are a therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist, nurse, whatever, whether you are helping other people in your job or you just have a job working in a office setting, take care of yourself, especially during COVID. It is not good to our mental health to be stuck in a house and have minimal contact with people and you're just staring at the walls. It will have an effect on your emotional health. There's nothing wrong with talking to somebody about what's going on. You do not have to pretend like you are strong. You can be strong and you are strong, and being strong is great, but if you feel like that's not enough today, call somebody.
Mhm.
And just to clarify, when you talk about talking to people, you're not just talking about on social media, right? Because let's be real. Everybody's a therapist. Everybody's an expert. Ain't never don't have
Jesus.
no certifications, no type of training or nothing. You got people giving advice, which is
We
it's just
Oh.
terrible. So just to
we
clarify, we talking about licensed, qualified people.
yeah,
All right.
not people sitting in their car going on rants about
No,
stuff. We're not gonna mention those things about
no.
how to live and make your money. No, this is how to emotionally and mentally just feel fulfilled and happy, and just recognize that it's okay to kind of feel like you don't have control. But let's figure out acceptance of just things that you just can't control and live your life happy based on that. Because there are things in life we can't control. And I think people get frustrated with that. And that's okay. How do we get you to a place where you are accepting that what people do, what they say, how they feel, how, whatever, is something you just can't control?
Mhm.
So what are you going to do about it? What are your options? Now the ball's in your court. To somebody.
All right. And Charles, can you kind of talk about from an African American male's perspective? What do you think?
For sure. I think, I think that counseling is, this is a good question. So I'm trying to, so I'll say this. I think that for men, just in general, right? Not even just Black men specifically yet, but men in general, we like just the culture of men in this country has typically been birthed out of the sense of this toxic masculinity that society has created with false senses of what manhood truly is.
Thank you.
And I think that that ideal has heavily and negatively impacted how we see ourselves, how we see other people, how we see the world. There has been a lot of ego-ridden men in our experience because of the sense of toxic masculinity. There has been a lot of like hierarchical, just statures, one above the other because of just the nature of how things work in this country. And I think that because of that, and because the manhood that society has taught us is just not true and it's not healthy, I think that in and of itself is worth talking to somebody about and talking through, because what happens is the ideas of manhood and masculinity that this country and society has taught us has really kind of developed what we call like a false self. Like when we talk about true self versus false self, like a true self is like who you really are to the core of your nature as far as your soul and your spirit is concerned, who you were intended to be here on this earth, which is not anything negative. But then that false self is that response to whatever experiences that you've had in life as far as how to develop some type of survival tactics, whether it's, you learn to tear down other people, or you learn to be negative in your way of thinking, or you're always like on defense wanting to fight people, or be aggressive, or be, just like hyper masculine, whatever the case may be. Like, these are all things that have to be addressed in order for us to really live our lives as our true selves, not just as people, but as men more specifically. Now, we talk about Black men in this country. I think that there's this thing like that I've been having a conversation with folks about, like called like Black anxiety. It's the anxiety that we experience simply for being Black people. And I think that Black men experience that a lot, because when we talk about the demographics, this country is made up of 13%, about, a little bit over 13% of African American community. Of that 13%, about 6% are Black men. And out of our little 6% that we have, 34% of us make up the incarcerated population. And so I think there's a huge issue with those numbers and just the experience that we live here in life. And I think that it's important that we go and talk to somebody about it, so that way we can live a healthier life, not even just for ourselves, but when we talk about the people that are around us. If we have children, you want to be your healthiest self mentally for your child, for the people who are looking up to you, for your nieces, your nephews, your godchildren, whatever the case may be, you want to be your healthiest self. And I think that it's kind of, we are kind of incapable of reaching that full nature of our healthiest self without seeking some type of counsel.
Wow, you guys were very informative on everything. I thank you guys for being on this show.
Mhm.
This was definitely a very awesome show, and I hope a lot of people who view this show are very informed. Even being in this field, we're constantly learning. I don't think people understand that it's not like we just go to school and we just remember everything. There's something
Mhm.
new that we learn every day. There's a new strategy or a concept of
Mhm.
understanding and working with people. So I thank you guys for really being on the show. This was a awesome episode. We might have to do this again, run this back,
For
because I know
sure.
it's going to be a lot of questions. A lot of people going to have a lot of things to say. And this was good, especially hearing from two African Americans who are in this field and really understand what's going on. And I think at this pivotal time in America, we need somebody to work with our people who are struggling and really be able to help them on their way. And we didn't really get the shout out. We're all from Delaware State, y'all. Delaware State
Del
University,
State,
the best university.
class of
You know,
2014, baby.
we love Del State. I try to definitely make sure, I shout out all HBCUs, but definitely Delaware State. That's where I
Yeah,
went to, as well as my fellow guests as well. In uplifting our education system, you can see that HBCUs are not just for colored people and we just go and party, but we actually learn and come out to really be
for
successful.
sure.
And Del
Yeah.
State's motto is making our mark on the world, in which we are all doing at this time. So in our closing, we're going to start with Kiana. So can you give a little bit to the people about what are your projects, anything you're working on? How can they reach you? Because now that y'all out there now people may want to reach out to you, especially in the DC area. Can you just tell the people about how they can reach you and some of the projects you have going on, and your
Sh-
social media too?
yeah, yes. So, actually, like literally just made a Instagram solely for like blogging things, which will heavily include just mental health awareness, kind of breaking that stigma, which is a_lush_in_fab_life, so a lush and fab life. And then
You
my
might want to spell that out, because somebody gonna be struggling like, what was that?
I know. The letter A, an underscore, lush, LUSH, another underscore, the letter N, another underscore, fab, another underscore, life. I also have another social media platform that on Instagram that's a little bit more private, but I'm considering opening it up to a more public page. But I'm a little scared because Charles, that's one of my but it's nothing crazy or inappropriate, But and that one is just Lush and Fab on Instagram. Lush LUSH_N LUSH underscore the letter N underscore Fab FAB. So that, in addition to that, really quickly, I am kind of in this small organization with these 3 other amazing girls that I also went to Delaware State with, and we are currently working on producing a podcast to really help women understand the importance of working together, just the sisterhood of being, just the camaraderie of being a woman and working with women and not having to tear women down and navigating these different systems, the educational system, health system, mental health system, learning how to advocate for yourself, figuring out the best ways to approach issues in your city, your town, your state, whatever, and just learning how to just live life, and be young, and it's okay to make mistakes and relationship stuff. And we're all along the East Coast in different places, but we all have stayed together and really seen each other through trials, tribulations, and our greatest amazing goals and triumphs. So that's what this podcast.
Y'all have a name for the show yet?
So it's called the Sisterhood Collective. We hope to start putting out shows or episodes at the beginning of the year. Very excited for that, and definitely am hoping that it will kind of turn into a much bigger thing where we're actually out doing things in the community, and really able to put people on this platform and allow them to talk about their greatness and the wonderful things they're doing in their lives and their, in their city, town, state. So, yeah.
Wow, and that's awesome. And y'all hear that, sisters? Y'all don't have to tear each other down. Y'all ain't got to
Just
be out here fighting. Y'all don't have to be on these ratchet
legit.
reality shows. We could do positive things too, y'all. You see that?
And together.
Together.
Absolutely.
And they have their clothes on. I'm gonna say that. You know what I mean? We don't have to.
Legit.
We can still be ladylike. So I'm
Yes.
definitely excited for this podcast. So be on the lookout for that. Charles, what you got going on? I know you always into something. What you got going on?
Man, so other than counseling, I have a platform that I created about a year or so ago. It's called Color My Mind. So it's pretty much a little metaphoric in that the colors connected to different mental health disorders, and pretty much using that to kind of connect with where that might function in the brain aspect. So it's called Color My Mind, and encouraging people to be a little bit more comfortable with their experiences that they have, and to be a little bit more comfortable with having the conversation concerning mental health. And so pretty much what Color My Mind is about, pretty much just developing some unorthodox experiences based around mental health. And so the first project that we did was we did a brunch style dinner last February. And then just September, we did a Brown Brothers brunch, which was virtual. And then on Halloween, I actually have a kids experience. I'm calling it the Kids Mental Ween. So it's a 1 hour experience to kind of get kids to talk about and to work through different forms of mental health experiences that they may have. That's also going to be virtual. And so we're pretty much just taking the creative platform, creating very unorthodox experiences. I know next summer we're projected to have a day party next summer, based around mental health and getting people to talk more about, not their personal experiences so much, but just kind of learn more about what that looks like. And what these experiences might look like, and walk away with some tools as well. And so we have a lot of different projects that are created to kind of make it a little bit more comfortable for people to have the conversation about mental health, because they may not feel comfortable going to a one-on-one clinician. So that's pretty much the platform that I have. Out of that, I also do what I call Mental Health Mondays. So I typically record videos to give little short snippets concerning different mental health experiences that somebody might have concerning stress management, time management, healthy boundaries. I touched on some things with bipolar, depression, anxiety, COVID-19, trauma, and different things of that sort, worry, fear, just different emotional experiences. And those are also on social media and on YouTube as well. Other than that, I'm a poet, spoken word artist. So I actually have been making some connections to more professionally record some of my poetry as well, my spoken word pieces. Haven't done that in a while, so I'm getting back to it. I'm actually getting back to it. So I'm excited about that. So that's pretty much, I have my hands in a couple of nonprofits as well. One of them is called Our Boys, Our Men. So that's a nonprofit organization here. It's an after school program for our African-American young men here in Delaware. We're pretty much located in Newcastle County with two other of our frat brothers actually, who are Black men and in the counseling and the psychology field as well. And then I also just got a email. There's another nonprofit organization that focuses on raising funds to help college students with the application process. And so I just got invited to their board, so I'm considering that. So there's a few things here that I'm trying to keep myself involved in with things that I love to do. I just signed up for kickboxing. I'm just like,
like you making me stressed out with all. I'm like,
I'm loving it. I'm trying to live your life, Charles. That's amazing.
So how can they follow? The question is, how can they follow you at all this? This is a lot to follow.
You can, my Facebook is Charles Robinson Snead, CHARLES. My last name is Robinson, ROBINSON-Snead, SNEAD. My Instagram is @MadeProdigy_, MADEPRODIGY_. And all of my, mental health stuff is on there until I transfer over to a different platform as far as promotion is concerned. And then you can also visit www.colormymind.com to learn more about the platform that I just spoke of. And color is spelled COLOURMYMIND.
Wow. This was definitely an awesome episode. I appreciate you again, you guys, for being on the show. I know you guys for a very long time. So to see you guys where you at in your career and in your personal lives is very awesome. Again, just want to encourage you guys to keep pushing because there are people out there that need you. You know, us as licensed mental health professionals, we need each other, right? And we need to keep
Mm-hmm.
going, especially in the midst of COVID. For all my followers, again, we appreciate you guys for being on the show. And we hope that you guys really have learned something valuable from this episode and that mental health is important. It's not only a diagnosis or just taking medicine or just, this really just sitting down necessarily and feeling like you're wasting your time, but it's really an important time for you to have an exchange with someone that can really help transform your life and help you grow to be successful. And not only for yourself, right? You might be able to help pull somebody else out the trenches to help move forward in their lives. So again, this was a dope episode. This was episode 3, mental health awareness, featuring Kiana Bean and Charles Robertson Snead. We hope you guys have a good one, and we hope that you guys continue to follow the Marty Mar show. We're out.